It is a pleasure to have with us Alina Habba. You know, Alina, I don't know, have you been on this show before?
I have not. I'm so excited to be on your show, Mark. I'm a big fan.
And I'm a big fan of yours. You've been doing a fantastic job in and out of the courtroom, and I want to talk about that. What's going on in this fraudulent civil phony fraud case. First of all, tell America about this gag order and what happened today.
With pleasure. Well, you know, there's this continuous unconstitutional attempt to gag the leading candidate for the Republican Party at the moment. And now this is the second time that a judge with political biases has been overturned and the gag order was stayed. They tried to tell us that we could not discuss his law clerk, who is incredibly politically motivated, as well as the judge and Miss James. And in an attempt to, you know, basically stop us from telling the press what was actually going on, and they claim it was to protect her, even though she sits on the bench with them every day, we were gagged. And, you know, it's completely unconstitutional. We argued in front of the appellate division today in the First Department, and they agreed with us. So the gag order was stayed and lifted, and now I am free to speak to you, Mark. You're my first show without a gag order.
Yeah. They've tried it with me too, but not through the courts, you know, just trying to boycott me. But now let me ask you a question.
Of course. Yeah.
To those of us who've practiced law for a while, particularly in the constitutional field, the unconstitutionality of these gag orders are so obvious. And never before has a presidential candidate been gagged, let alone a former president been gagged, let alone in the middle of an election. They leak like hell to the media. They go out there and they talk to the media. The judge can say anything the judge wants to. And I'm finding this more and more with all these judges in these cases. They make political statements. They're asked to recuse themselves. They say no. The Department of Justice or the Attorney General's office in the case here in New York, they never shut the hell up. And then they want you to be quiet and Trump to be quiet. This really is, from my perspective, so obviously political, no?
It's 100% political. In our case in particular, you have an AG who literally ran on Trump. She would not be Attorney General. She would not be in that position if she didn't promise her constituents time and time again at rallies. That was the theme of her rallies. Get Trump. When I'm in office, I'll get Trump. If you elect me, I'll get Trump. I will go into Trump organizations' financials. I will find something wrong with them, and I will get him. So what more un-American behavior do you need than when we're politicizing our Justice Department, our AGs, our DAs? We've seen it time and time again. And then we're silencing their attorneys even. And by the way, just so you know, Mark, I was not even allowed to speak about the clerk on the record in the courtroom. So I couldn't even make a record for appeal. And I know, you know, a lot of your listeners are not attorneys, and God bless them for making the right life choices. But, you know, when you hire an attorney, they're your advocate. And to tell me as an advocate for President Trump or any of my clients that I cannot make the record I need to make about bias in the courtroom, and I can't put that on the record for the appellate division because we know this judge is going to rule against us. But let me at least have a fighting chance, you know, and I'll take it up to the Supreme Court if I have to. But how can I do that with no record? And that's what's happened, and it's really unconstitutional. And we had a good day today, and got it stayed.
And the mistrial is based on, in part, and I read your fantastic documents, and the mistrial is based in part on how this judge conducted the trial, how you were guilty, obviously, before you even walked into the damn courtroom, how he really was interfering with witness testimony, particularly the president's. Oh, you're going on too long and so forth, and you're not here to speak. And he makes these incredibly ridiculous comments and so forth. And so you're going upstairs and you're saying, all right, look, this is a complete mistrial, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask you another question? What about due process? In this courtroom, the idea of due process really is outrageous, the way this judge conducted himself. I'm even thinking of a federal right to due process. even though this is a state court action? Is that something anybody might think about down the road?
We discussed it today, actually, in the appellate division. This judge has, without warning to the president's attorneys, taken the president from sitting as a defendant in the courtroom next to his attorneys, put him on the stand, put him under oath, and asked him about comments he made to the press, and then completely disregarded what his under oath testimony was and decided he just didn't believe him, and then sanctioned him. That is not due process. Due process means you get a fair warning, a fair hearing, notice to your counsel, an opportunity to put your case on. That has not been happening. And more importantly, and I'm so happy that you're the show that I finally can discuss this, in our mistrial papers, Mark, we outline the political contributions that this clerk has made time and time again in the thousands of dollars. There is a limit of $500. There is no exception to that limit. People in the press are getting it wrong and saying, oh, she could do it because she was candidate for a judgeship, which she lost. That's incorrect. She was not at the time. And there is no exception. These groups that this clerk, who has been in this judge's ear, has been contributing to, so you understand, are supportive of Letitia James and anti-Trump. One wrote an op-ed saying Letitia James is the last line of defense against Trump. And this is who she goes and protests. There are videos. She protests with them while the case was pending. The judge is putting out articles about Eric Trump, myself, and the president about this case while the case is pending. It is insane what I have seen. It is insane. And the American people can understand that. When you are in the middle of a trial, you are not allowed to do certain things. And if you're the judge, if you're the arbiter of facts and law, you are not allowed to have any bias or appearance of bias. And it's the framework for our country so that we feel that we have due process. And there just is not that. Like you said, he found fraud before he heard an expert or a testimony, and this is effectively a damages trial.
Alina Habba, who is a fantastic lawyer for Donald Trump, in this particular case, in the phony civil case brought by Letitia James, the phony attorney general. So my question is, whatever happened to these rules of professional conduct in these codes for judges, for prosecutors, for lawyers generally? They're never raised. And, you don't have to raise it. Nobody has to raise it. If any lawyer sees this, or a judge in particular, they are free to raise the question with the bar on their own, right? So why isn't the New York bar or anybody taking a look at any of this?
I don't know. I don't know. And that's a good point that you raise. And I don't know whether people don't understand that, but if what you're seeing concerns you, I encourage you to contact the bar because it is a problem. And there's accountability when you take the bar exam and you take the oath to be a lawyer in this state. And that is to apply law to fact. That is to abide by judicial code of conduct, ethical codes of conduct. And those rules apply to me and they apply to them. And this, what we have seen, and, the reporting, remember, the reporting is only giving you a glimpse, and that's by mostly left-wing reporters. Mm-hmm. If they're saying it's happening, imagine what's actually happening. So I encourage people to read the mistrial papers. We outline specifically every action of what we have seen. It's very disturbing, and I think you raise a really good point. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be involved in this case to raise the issue.
Where can people find those papers online? Where do they go? I can post them,
You absolutely can. They're public. And I encourage you to look at the links. Look at the links to videos of people while this case is going on that are sitting on the bench, Mm-hmm. It's not okay. It's okay if you're a political person, a spokeswoman, an advocate, an attorney. It's not okay for a judge. It's not okay for a courtroom. There is a difference between me and the judge. There is a difference between Miss James, frankly, and the judge and his law clerk, so it's a really dangerous precedent that's being set. I'm glad the appellate division saw our way today, but feel free to post it. I know there's been articles that have embedded them in there as well.
Let's grab one of those, Mr. Producer, and flop it up there for everybody to see. It's very, very important. President Trump, his He's pretty amazing, isn't he? He is steadfast. He's strong throughout it all. Most people would crumble. He doesn't crumble. He gets stronger, doesn't he?
He really does. I think it motivates him because if your motivation is love of the country, I think that when you see the destruction that is happening to our country, it motivates you to get in there, fight, and he is fortunate enough to be able to do so in a very serious way. And I think his numbers show that people are listening and agree. So, you know, the more they hit him, he always says, they're only doing it to me to get to you. You know, they want full control, and he's the only one stopping them at this moment. So, you know, it's important, and I know that that's why he's resilient, and that's why he's not afraid. Frankly, that's not why I'm not afraid. You know, I really believe in what he's doing. I believe in this country, and I'm very, very scared by what I've seen in the courtrooms. When I say I'm Alina Habba and I represent Donald Trump, there is a sharp contrast between representing anybody else and representing him, and the treatment he gets is so unfair and so wrong, Mark, that if you care about this country not going to hell, you know, you have to get behind it, because I don't think anyone else is strong enough to fight the radical left, to be honest.
Anytime you want to come on, let us know. It's been very nice to meet you. I've been admiring what you're doing from afar. It really is terrific, and you're up against it. The system is very. Look, I don't want to cause any trouble for you, so I'm saying this for myself. The system is corrupt. You have these one-party cities, these one-party states, and what's happening is it's reflected in the courtroom. And so when people lose faith in the rule of law, they lose faith in judges in the judicial system, and they see what's taking place, half the country at least, they do grave, grave damage to this republic, even though they think they're helping their own party. And you're fighting against that, and anybody who does that deserves kudos. And I want to thank you very, very much for what you're doing.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. But I do it, frankly, for the country. You know, it's not about being Republican.
I get it. Believe me. Alina Habba, thank you. God bless you. Be safe out there.
Yeah, God bless you. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care of yourself. First time I've ever spoken to her, ever.